YouTube channel membership is not your thing. Follow me on social media. I'm at Dollamore on Twitter and Instagram and Threads and TikTok and Facebook. I'd love to see you there. Building a community everywhere. I'll see you next time. Until I do, be genuine and take care of one another.
Oh, I don't want to go up here.
So I have a question in terms of Social Security and specifically elderly benefits. And along with the problems that you point out, obviously we also have a demographic issue, which a lot of economists, especially Boston, who I understand was a Hoover Fellow, talks about specifically the graying population and how that contributes. Even if we return these policies back to their initial intention, we still have a graying population who is living longer and increasingly is taking up more of the population. So if you could speak on that, that'd be amazing.
It's a great question. Here we are at, we've gone for the last 20 years of raising the debt relative to our economy, right? At a time we should be preparing for what we knew was coming, this demographic fall senior, right? We knew it was coming. And yet we have policies not preparing for it, but are running up. But it turns out, I think, that the demographic problem is overstated. And here's why. If you were to limit the benefits of Social Security, future benefits, to their real value today, or inflation-adjusted value today, so you don't increase them, you just keep them where they are today, inflation-adjusted purchasing power the same. You do the same for Medicare. And spending relative to GDP on those two programs will not rise. That is, you will limit the growth in those programs to the rate of growth of the economy. So all those big increases that I showed you would be taken, not all of them, but the vast majority of them, would be taken out of the budget. And so, yes, demographics is a problem, but it's not as big as the problem of rising expenditures in both of those programs per recipient.
Yeah, y'all trying to stop motherfuckers from getting what is necessary, you stupid ass bitch.
Win for Donald Trump and Nikki Haley's home state.
South Carolina, thank you very much. Go home, get rest. I have never seen the Republican Party so unified as it is right now.
Today is not the end of our story. Now Nikki Haley vowing to stay in the race. Super Tuesday, just days away. Plus, new this morning, a major shakeup for the GOP. The head of the Republican National Committee has just announced her resignation. We have team coverage. Also this morning, more airstrikes in the Middle East. American and British forces targeting Houthi rebels in Yemen to stop the Houthis' attacks on ships in the Red Sea. Meanwhile, some progress on a potential ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. We'll have the latest. And a social media showdown raising questions about freedom of speech. The Supreme Court now set to weigh in on two separate laws involving the censorship of controversial social media posts. More on the debate and how it could impact what you see when you scroll. Plus, safety concerns over a beloved tradition in college sports, why some are calling for fans to stop storming the court at basketball games. We'll bring you that conversation. It's an
Cancel.
Big shakeup in the race for the White House. Ronna McDaniel has announced she will step down next.
Good morning, happy Monday. Welcome to We Guns on Road. This is the pre-court, and in this, we will indeed be diving into Joe Rogan not being as bad as he could have been. And so he'll get some credit for that. We have a lot of other stories to get to before that, though, so thank you for joining me. Some of you have already hit the like button. Almost half of you. Almost half of every group of people, awesome people. And then there's other people. I mean, it just comes down to which part of that, you know, the human population you want to be a part of. So, in any event, thank you all for being here. We've got a lot to talk about. And I've got some bad stuff to talk about, but I also want to talk about good stuff. Not only the weird credit I'm going to give to Joe Rogan, but also I want to start off with pop culture, sort of. And that is Nick Offerman, who got an award at the Independent Spirit Awards. Now, as you may know, he played a character in The Last of Us on HBO, and his character was awesome. The episode that he was featured in was awesome. And here's the thing. It was a great episode of TV and an awesome show. If you haven't watched The Last of Us, you definitely should. But some people were bothered by the fact that it had gay stuff in it. There's two guys who were in love. I'm physically incapable of enjoying the storytelling or character growth, or the deep themes and the way that it expands on the world of The Last of Us. I am physically, intellectually, emotionally, spiritually incapable of appreciating this art. There's a couple on the screen that's not exactly like the sort of couple I'd be a part of. It's so weird when, like, there's great relationships that are nothing like the sort of relationships that individuals with, and that has never stopped people from paying attention to it. But when it's a gay couple, suddenly it's a problem. So Nick Offerman is in a scene, and, or not scene, a full episode, basically a kind of shortish movie, and it was awesome. And so he gets an award, and he says, thanks to HBO for having the guts to participate in a storytelling tradition that is truly independent, stories with guts. That's when homophobic hate comes my way and says, why did you have to make it a gay story? We say, because you ask questions like that. It's not a gay story, it's a love story, you asshole. And I love it at the end. It gives no F's, and it's awesome. It should give no F's. You can just watch shows and movies. They don't have to be exactly like the right. In fact, if they were, that would be a home movie. Like a cinematic movie. We go to the theater to see things that we cannot easily experience in our own lives, but not those things. We don't want to see those things. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Anyway, great work by Nick Offerman. That episode, I haven't rewatched Last of Us. I'll probably rewatch it in anticipation of the second season coming out. But I can't wait to see that episode again because it's great. Let's see. Anthony says, do you buy the prototyping on Bailey's side with famous football? I don't. Matthew Swerve coming. Yeah, I sort of feel that too. But anyway, I'm wearing a wrestling shirt today because Brett Ehrlich got me this for my birthday. I don't know if I've ever had a wrestling shirt before, but I'm not against it. If you want to send me, the studio a wrestling shirt, sidebar, I'll wear it. But anyway, he got this for me, and it is Monday, and he's gone for 2 weeks, so in honor of him, I'm wearing it. Okay, so we go from Nick Offerman to someone who does not deserve
Go lick your own dick.
I hate politicians. Is that a weird position? I know everybody here about politics, right? They're the best. Okay, so we have this IVF ruling coming out of Alabama, and everybody's lining up on one side or another. It's not looking good for those on the right who are against IVF because they're fucking insane. Okay, so then we have the independent politicians, okay? They're not just, gonna obviously do whatever the Democrats do or whatever the Republicans do. They're gonna think it through.
What am I looking for?
See, RFK Jr. asked about this, and he says he didn't read it, and he won't say when life began.
Nightfall.
The all-electric, all-quiet Subaru Sultan. Dog-tested, dog-approved.
Fucking politicians, man. Fucking politicians. In particular, politicians who claim to, tell it like it is. And honestly, it's even worse than some of those who usually use that slogan, and it usually means nothing at all. Donald Trump came out in support of IVF. RFK Jr. isn't as good as Trump on this issue. And look, seriously, I I don't know if respect is the right word. I have something like more respect for a religious establishment who's against IVF than a politician who's like an 80-year-old man who, I don't know, am I for it, am I against it? I don't know, I didn't read this particular rule. It could be anything. Maybe IVF should continue, maybe it shouldn't, maybe people who paid $50,000 should suddenly have their entire plan cut off in the middle. I don't know. Who am I to take positions? I only want to be president. And in general, won't say when life begins. You're fucking 80, man. You've got like 3 years to live, and you haven't figured out your position on this yet? At this point, I almost don't even care what your position is. You should have one. You should have a fucking position on when life begins. Jeez. Doesn't have to be super specific. I'm not asking for, like, at what number of total cells in the fetus. I'm not asking for a particular date or a time, 3 p.m. But something. But this is what you get when a politician is more scared of turning off people that they could potentially grift than actually attracting people with their well-thought-through values and policies. That's respect. Yes, a ballpark would be done. Smiling Dragon, remember 38 months says, did you see Rick Trump's entry thumbnail between stories? Nice. Entry thumbnail? Well, no, I have not seen that. I'm going to have to look that up. I don't know. I do know from history that Rick Strom is an innovator. He's a grinder. Almost nobody works harder on YouTube than Rick Strom. I can say that. But I haven't seen the particular thumbnail, but I would like to see it. Maybe somebody can DM it to me on Discord. To be fair, he's only 7. I'm joking about the 80. But he's a fully grown man, okay? He's a fully grown man. Okay, I did want to mention this. It's almost certainly we're going to talk about it, I think, on the show as well, because I have Francesco on, and we have a sort of related story. But I'm sure you saw that a U.S. Air Force member survived, but is critically injured after he set himself on fire outside of the Israeli embassy in protest of what's going on in Gaza, saying that he does not want to be party to genocide. And, yeah, that's really rough. It is a reminder. We talked about this sort of, oh, Jesus Christ, he did end up, the latest I had seen, hold on. Okay, he did actually pass. Gio, even worse then. But, so what I was going to say was, it is a reminder. Remember we talked about this? I don't know if it was last Friday or if it was last week. But how weird it is that you can have this massive spectrum of how much people actually care about this stuff. Where you have people who are almost all of them, the people who care least benefit the most, by far. That's indisputable, right? The people who are most willing to lie about what they believe, hide what they actually believe, they're the ones who get the money and the fame and the influence and power. Okay, they don't care about any of this stuff. They mock those who do. Trump talking about, the soldiers in World War II being suffers, and the activist who died, thanks to an Israeli bulldozer running over her because she was trying to protect Palestinians. Ben Shapiro mocks her. None of this means anything to these people. It's just fucking fake. It's like a game. It's like them. I used to do reviews of Game of Thrones. That's what this is to them, okay? And then you have the fucking people who are literally willing to put their lives in line. I think I was talking about this in the context of Alexei Navalny. And so this person did too. Now look, obviously, I don't want people selfishly. Let me just say that I want you alive. If you were the sort of person that cares this much about it, I want you alive, and I want you, continuing to advocate for what you believe. Everybody, I'm not one of those people that thinks it should be illegal or whatever. Like, you can do with your life what you want. It obviously is a strong statement. I don't want people to do it. I don't, that's just me, But it is incredibly sad. Incredibly sad. This person clearly took what was happening there very seriously. This person individually took it more seriously than virtually everyone talking about this topic. In D.C., in the media, it was not abstract. It was not some small thing. Like, yeah, whatever. And so, Jesus, man. Really sorry to hear the update. that they actually died. I was amazed that they survived for the period that they did, but very, very sad. Okay, everybody. I was going to go into a thing of criticism of CPAC coming from George Santos, but that doesn't really seem right, so we're not going to do that. But if you want to hit the like button, looks like about 1 in 3 of you have. Thank you, and for everyone who's already here, much appreciated. And in one moment, we're going to go into Joe Rogan versus Kid Rock. We're going to try to watch a little bit of this. It's tough because these are all very long. Really fast, I want to ask you a question. I want your thoughts. So, I'm both interested in the thoughts of those of you who are already members, and I can see those of you who are, and those of you who are not already members. Thinking about the YouTube membership and sort of some of the bonus content that we produce for you. And so, one of the things we do is every Monday we do a top 10, which is usually a non-political thing, like an infusion of, getting to know the host outside of politics. But we have run up against a lot of times when there's extra news we want to cover. We just don't have time. So, which do you prefer? So if you're a member, which would you prefer to get as the member you are? And if you're not a member, which would make you more likely to want to become a member? I'm curious about both of those things. Top 10 lists that are sometimes politically inclined, sometimes they're not. Or actual bonus content that is fully exclusive to the members. Like stories where Francesca and I discuss different bits of news, and it only goes out to the members, on a Monday or distributed throughout the week. Which sounds more appealing to you? Because I really like doing both. Let's see. The first two I see are more news. I see another more news. I see bonus content. These are both bonus content. Which kind of bonus content? Switch it up and do them on a whim. The first news is almost cool, but your team is more valuable. Team really good for extra news. Top 10 list. Bonus top 10. Top 10. Both. Oh, sure. Maybe both, honestly. This is just me spitballing. Francesca bonus content. Not even me. You don't want me in there. More news, both, top 10. Okay, so there is a mix. Maybe more news or both. Rants. Well, we could rant in a top 10 list or a news. More of everything! Okay, well, thank you all for your thoughts. With that said, let's turn to this. To set the stage, the context. Joe Rogan has Kid Rock on, and they're talking about Gaza. Obviously, they're both experts. So, here they are, and we're gonna jump around a little bit, and maybe I'll summarize with some quotes, because they know nobody gets time. This podcast is like 17 hours long. So, here's some of the conversation. Maybe I can speed it up.
If you live in Gaza, you would be convinced it's the end of the world. Right? So it is the end of the world in one place. And that spot is the end of the world. But where you are, it's not. And you gotta look at it that way. And when I look at it that way, the only way you lose is fucking living. It's really the fuckers on the planet. I don't disagree with any of those things. Let's just go in there and be like, you know what? I'm gonna hostage that. If we ever clock starts now, fucking 24 hours, we're gonna start bombing motherfuckers and killing fucking civilians 40,000 fucking times. So you civilians better fucking hack up and fucking get these fucking motherfuckers and you go against us. You fucking go against us. We're not playing fucking game. That's the only thing people understand. This is what happened in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. No, straight back, you're like, oh, yes, we don't touch people anymore. It's not really like such big bombs. Yeah, but everybody has big bombs. The problem is we use a big bomb instead of precedent that they can use a big bomb. They don't have that. Well, they don't, but they're allies too. That's the real problem. Yeah, but it must be hard enough for them. You can't just nuclear bomb people. I didn't say nuclear bomb back. No, I didn't say Hiroshima and Nagasaki. No, I was saying just the force of strength using those. So that even a conventional bomb campaign, if you want to do that somewhere, they can do that to your place. And this is what we have to look at and find out. Yeah, until someone launches nukes. And then we have
yes.
Our civilization's over.
You fucking idiot.
Ceases to exist. There's no more electricity.
Talking about fuck around and find out. That's stupid.
Of course, that is kind of the world that all of these right-wingers and survivalists want to have. But set that aside.
Fuck around and find out.
He's on the side of something approaching sanity here, and they eventually get back to Gaza, and he calls him out for saying those are war crimes. You can't do that, which shouldn't need to be called out. It should be obvious at this point. But Joe Rogan, at least in this case, is on the right side of this. And look, Kid Rock can talk about whatever Kid Rock wants to talk about. He can talk about
Kid Rock is a fucking idiot.
Really anything about, or he can talk about stuff like that. You can do that. Just because you're not a politician or a pundit or whatever doesn't mean you can't talk about this. You can do it, and then you can get criticized for what you say. Kid Rock comes off sounding like a fucking dumbass.
He is a dumbass.
When it comes to this stuff, he's a fucking dumbass. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And by that, I don't mean, well, that would be barbaric, don't do that. No, like he's saying, fuck around and find out. They don't have a big bomb. So, but do you get that you are responding to the fact? You think all of this is justified, killing 40,000 people at a time, because Hamas broke through the lines and brutally murdered well over 1,000 Israelis and kidnapped hundreds of others, and many of them are dead. Yeah, they didn't do it with a bomb, you jackass, but they can do damage, and we don't want that to happen. That should be what we're trying to avoid. And he seems to really, like, you know how, like, in a meta sense, when you zoom out and you look at a conflict like Israel-Palestine, and you see the acts of terrorism against Israel, and you see the horrendous bombing campaigns and the settlement and murders and all that against the Palestinians, and then you see that, and that just goes on for a little time, and you're left wondering, like, it doesn't seem like this is benefiting anyone. How is this sustainable? It's sustainable because a lot of humans are stupid as fucking Kid Rock. He literally, no, this time we took a big bomb, and then they surrender. They do nothing ever. That's generally how it works in the fucking Middle East. It's just brutal, and then nothing bad ever happens. That's how history works. Jesus fucking Christ. Now, thankfully, you had Joe Rogan there to be like, yeah, I don't think that's generally how it works. I think that they eventually, of course, you could just point out that you are not allowed to kill 40 or 50,000 civilians at a time because they live near the people you're trying to kill. That's a bad thing, you know? And it's not just a bad thing when it affects other people. Theoretically, what we're trying to establish here by having things labeled as war crimes and actually prosecuting them every once a century or so, only in the case of the Nazis, we don't want them to do that to us. And by the way, Kid Rock is a fucking crazy person who definitely thinks that Joe Biden is a tyrant or whatever. I mean, Joe Biden and those tyrants, pedophiles, Democrats got to do a war with Donald Trump. So you live here, Kid Rock. Can Canada kill you unless you take out Joe Biden? You look at it, walk around and find out? Is that how that works? They're fucking civilians. They just live in a place where Hamas is, and you know that they can't leave, right? Again, like, it's not that he's expressing a thought without any information. That is very common. That's blasé on the internet. It's that because he's Kid Rock, and because for some reason, out of the literally millions of podcasts that exist, fate has decreed that Joe Rogan's should be the most influential. When you bring on stupid people, that's what gets spread. So he gets credit because he fact-checked it and called them out. It's war crimes, it's stupid, it's self-destructive, all of that. But he did bring him on, and they did decide to talk about Gaza. And many people in Joe Rogan's audience are going to side with Kid Rock on that. That's how that is actually going to work in practice. And he's going to bring him back. You know? It's like when Aaron Rodgers was brought back on a Pat McAfee or whatever, after saying that implying that Jimmy Kimmel was a pedophile. Like, well, so he's going to do it again. Again. Like, you're not punishing them for abusing the platform you've provided to them. So you are incentivizing them to continue to do it because there's nothing bad that happens. I mean, they get credit on their side, the conspiratorial jackass side. And nothing bad happens to them, so why wouldn't they continue to do it? And so, but Joe Rogan knows that when he brings these people on. That's why he brings on so many people. They do drive interest, and they do drive news, generally by calling for fucking war crimes. Anyway, those are my thoughts about that. We've got lots more to come on the full Damage Report show today. Francesca Fiorentini joins me. Got some fun news to talk about. Thank you, everybody who's here. Thank you, everybody who's already hit the like button. Looks like it's a little bit less than half of you, so regrettably, the forces of apathy are winning out. But you know, we're gonna make our last stand by hitting the like button. I'll see you soon.
Quite a weekend for Donald Trump and his supporters.
Well, I don't know. I had somebody run against me in the primary once, and they got, I think, 19-20%, and I melted down. I thought it was the end of all time. I think most politicians would. If you're basically the incumbent, and about to get the nomination for the third time, you're still losing 50%. In Iowa and 60% in South Carolina, which is your strongest state. Wall Street Journal editorial page this morning has a point. Before we get into the news, I know a lot of people have been talking about South Carolina, but I think the Wall Street Journal editorial page has it right here. Let me read it. Yet Miss Haley won nearly 40% of the vote, which, as she said in her remarks Saturday evening, is not some tiny group. That's especially true running against a quasi-incumbent who's endorsed by nearly every GOP official in the state. None of them want to risk getting primaried. Yet, as in New Hampshire, the size of her vote shows that millions in the Republican Party do not want Mr. Trump in the White House. A Fox News voter analysis found that 59% of Ms. Haley's voters said they would not vote for Trump. Let me say that again. 59% of Haley's voters said they would not vote for Trump if he's the GOP nominee. And the exit polls showed that 36% of all Republican South Carolina voters said a conviction in one of his criminal trials would make him unfit to be president. So even if most of those voters hold their noses and vote for Trump in a race against Mr. Biden, the question is, how many stay home, vote for a third party, or go over to Mr. Biden? Even a 10% defection could be divisive and decisive. If Mr. Trump can't win over more of her voters, he could make Ms. Haley a prophet. Of course, they're talking about when she said, if Donald Trump wins, we're going to lose. And just real quickly, go to John Heilman before we jump into the news.
I just want to say that I have never seen the Republican Party so unified as it is right now. Never been like that.
That is a Trump whopper and wishful thinking. Because according to South Carolina GOP primary results, Trump got just under 60% and Nikki Haley's just under 40%. The large anti-Trump vote has been a pattern. In Iowa, Trump got 51% of the Republican vote. In New Hampshire, he got 54%. Here's another Trump challenge.
The real key here is this 59% of Haley voters who say that they would not vote for Donald Trump should he become the nominee. That tracks with about 24% of the Republican Party, which is right along the lines of what that New York Times Siena poll showed us almost a year ago now, in terms of the makeup of the Republican Party, in which there was about 25% of Republicans who say that they are never Trumpers.
About 25% are never Trumpers. That's 1 out of every 4 registered Republicans who will not vote for Trump in the general election. They will either vote for the Democratic nominee, a third party, or they will not vote at all. That is a death knell for the Trump campaign in November. And keep in mind, the Republican primary voters in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina are among the most engaged in the GOP. But Trump, the Republican incumbent, still has 40% of the GOP voting against him in the primaries, 25% saying they will not vote for him in the general election. By comparison, in South Carolina, Joe Biden got 96% of the Democratic vote, and the percentage of Democrats who say they will never vote for Biden in the general election is within every poll's margin of error, or less than 3%. Now, on top of the standing political problems for Trump with GOP voters, Trump continues to lose court cases. Most recently, a civil judge in New York fined Trump over $350 million for defrauding banks and other financial institutions. It was an embarrassing rebuke to Trump's self-proclaimed business success. And the anti-Trump Lincoln Project pounced with its most brutal ad to date. The group used artificial intelligence to recreate the voice of Donald Trump's late father, who started the Trump organization.
Donnie, I always knew you'd blow it. You were always a fool, a joke, no rent. I bailed you out so many times. Your deals were all garbage. You couldn't even make money off a casino, you I'm ashamed you have my name. Everyone knows why the women leave you. You're boring, broke. And I told you not to get fat. You pay porn stars, and you're weak down there. Your kids hate you, especially the girl. How did a son of mine turn out so damn dumb? The brand I built is crap because of you. You're trash. You'll be lucky to get out of jail. I may have lost my mind, but I never lost my business. I've been dead 30 years, and I'm still ashamed of you.
This ad was generated in whole or substantially by artificial intelligence.
Brutal stuff. And it serves as a reminder that Donald Trump is arguably not so much of an artist of the deal as a con artist who arguably steals. Most Republicans, of course, still love Trump and see him as a successful real estate multimillionaire. But even if the negative ads are peeling away from Trump just a few percentage of the Republican electorate, that matters. And keep in mind, polls show the ads are even more successful in turning moderate and independent voters against Trump. And by all accounts, moderate and independent voters in a dozen U.S. states are going to determine the 2024 general election presidential outcome. Now, some Republicans keep insisting that Donald Trump is going to get a higher than expected percentage of the Democratic base with the help of black voters, in part because Trump recently promoted and sold gold sneakers.
This is connecting with Black America because they love
No, the fucking ain't, you stupid
this is a big
bitch.
deal, certainly in the inner city. So when you have Trump roll out his sneaker line, they're like, wait a minute, this is cool. He's reaching them on a level that defies and is above politics. The culture always trumps.
Niggas that shoes and criminals, right?
Understands culture like no politician I've ever seen.
Question for you on that point, though.
Yeah.
Will the people that are excited about the sneakers and excited about Donald Trump, will that translate into them going out and voting for Donald Trump?
Nope.
Anybody willing to put $400 down for a pair of sneakers? Yeah, I think that's commitment and love. It's something. It's something. It's affection on some level.
It's also racism on some levels. To think that promoting cool sneakers will get you black votes? I'm sorry, MAGA world. Black voters are more sophisticated and smarter than you think. But thinking is not always part of the Trump MAGA playbook, and Trump himself recently made cringeworthy remarks at a conservative black conference.
I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot.
Black people are happily walking around with Trump's mugshot because Trump's legal woes are just like racial discrimination. There is insensitivity, and then there is Donald Trump. And Trump's insensitivity to minorities in the United States is why so many people are convinced that Donald Trump is a racist. To be clear, there is a strong argument that the Democratic Party has taken African American voters for granted, and black support for Joe Biden may be waning. But it can also be true that black voters see Donald Trump as a racist and clown who holds minorities in low regard. To underscore that, keep in mind that a week after Donald Trump declared his 2024 presidential campaign, Trump dined with a leading white nationalist. The point in all of this is that when you listen to Donald Trump, he sounds confident about his chances in November, and he deploys one of his own television show phrases.
Joe, you're fired. Get out, Joe. You're fired.
But the reality, based on Republican Party polling, is that Donald Trump is facing a Republican Party nightmare. The GOP is deeply divided. Donald Trump has a large portion of his own party that will never support him, and the hints to Trump keep coming. The Democrats and Joe Biden still blow this election? Of course. The Democrats are in better political shape, and Trump is in worse political shape than Trump's bravado suggests. By the way, we played a Lincoln Project ad in this video. Another recent ad is causing Trump to go ballistic.
Donald Trump doesn't care if your family's safety or the lives of law enforcement officers are in the balance. He's on the side of the cartels, coyotes, and child traffickers.
The attack is causing Trump to explode. True Social told the perverts of the failed Lincoln Project, who I was told were left-leaning rhinos who lost their way and almost all of their financial support, just did an ad showing a grassy, calm, and peaceful southern border, not an illegal migrant in sight. In reality, along the border, most illegal migrants are not in sight. The ad highlights President Biden's border security plans.
Crack down on illegal crossings. Set tough but fair new standards. Build up Border Patrol, adding thousands of new agents. Stop the flow of fentanyl, child sex traffickers, and even terrorists. There's only one problem.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump has ordered Republicans to block the toughest immigration bill in decades. For all their tough talk, their solution is to do nothing, because Donald Trump needs chaos to win.
Quote, watch what happens to these failed Lincoln Project screwballs. Fascinating read the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube along the lines of Christopher Snyder, 1532, who wrote, Another win for the Lincoln Project. I agree, the Lincoln Project wins, especially with centrist voters, are huge. I look forward to reading your comments about Donald Trump's claims of unprecedented Republican unity. I'll leave it to you. Thanks for joining us.
I had no idea that I would end up creating a whole new community.
I wanted to change an industry that neglects.
We're aware of what is happening in our country. Nikki Haley slamming that comment and Trump's recent remarks that he would encourage Russia to attack NATO allies unwilling to meet defense spending goals.
He sided with a dictator who kills his political opponents.
The Biden campaign also looking to exploit those comments.
Every president since Truman has been a rock-solid supporter of NATO.
Targeting this digital ad to the 900,000 Michigan voters with roots in NATO border states. Voters like Andy Ladek, a U.S. Army veteran who immigrated from Poland as a child and finds the remarks disqualifying for a would-be commander-in-chief.
For someone like a former president of the United States, to say something like that is beyond the pale. It's just totally unacceptable.
But President Biden faces an uphill battle here in Michigan, where polls show Mr. Trump in a strong position.
Garrett joins us now from Troy, Michigan. So, Garrett, we know former President Trump has also been critical of sending aid to Ukraine. Could the death of Navalny put pressure on Congress to pass that stalled aid package for Ukraine?
I think that's unlikely, Allison, unless and until Donald Trump changes his tune about either Navalny or the aid package. For now, I think it's going to take some of the bigger political change to affect House Republicans' commitment on Ukraine, possibly attaching that aid to government funding or some other must-pass bill. Right now, Congress is out the rest of the week, and that aid package is going nowhere fast. Allison?
Garrett Hayes, thank you. For more on Donald Trump and the state of the 2024 race, let's bring in Garrett Ventry, the founder of GRV Strategies and Message Impact and former GOP communications advisor. Garrett, thank you for joining us tonight. I want to ask you more about Trump's comments, where Garrett was just reporting there, as it relates to Alexei Navalny, and comparing it in many ways to his own legal woes. Do you think Trump not condemning Putin impacts voters and any sort of concerns they may have?
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I think if we take a step back on this, there certainly could be, comments made, and I think the president will address this here in the next coming days. I'm sure he'll be asked about on the campaign trail. But again, if you take a step back here and you look at President Trump's record when it comes to Russia, you're talking about he sanctioned Putin multiple times during his administration. And the two times that Putin has invaded Ukraine was once under President Obama and now another time under President Biden. So I think that